This is the solution to x0, 1, 1. Okay, so for the slope chart, so the first step in making a slope chart is to find the domain of the function q. So the domain is all reals because q is a polynomial. The second step is to find the critical points of Q. So to remind you what that means, that means find all M such that the derivative of Q at M is undefined or 0. And again, just by way of reminder, that Q prime of M undefined, what that means is that there's no tangent at that location. So that's something like absolute value, a pointy place, for example, like that. And then Q prime of M equals 0. This is a horizontal tangent. So that would be something like the bottom of a parabola. But in both cases, it's about tangency. So this point is critical because there is no tangent, and this point is critical because there is a horizontal tangent. Okay. In either case, we'll need to compute the derivative. So the derivative is 2m squared, 2m squared, and then plus 7m minus 15. So that's the derivative. Notice that again, Q prime is a polynomial, so Q prime of M is always defined. So that means that there's a tangent everywhere, so there's none of this kind of critical point. So that means that what we want to do is solve Q prime of M equal to 0. Well, that means that we're solving a quadratic equation. 2m squared plus 7m minus 15 equal to 0. So we can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula says that the solution should be negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 15 divided by 2 times 2. Then I'll simplify this arithmetic. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of, so that'd be 49, and then negative and negative those cancel. 2 times 15 is 30. times 4 is 120 over 4, so m is negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 169 over 4. The square root of 169 is 13. So m is negative 7 plus or minus 13 over 4. So the two different solutions are negative 7 minus 13 over 4, or m is negative 7 plus 13 over 4. So the solutions are, well, this one would be negative 20 over 4, so negative 5. Or this one would be 6 over 4, so 3/2. Okay, the slope chart. So step 3 of making the slope chart. This is where you actually make the slope chart. Slope chart. So here what we need is we need to use these two solutions to figure out that q prime of m, its factorization will look like, well, on the one hand, we know that it is equal to 2 times m squared plus 7m minus 15. So on the one hand, we know that it's that. And on the other hand, we just solved this quadratic equation, which means that q prime of m has two factors, this one and this one. So it'll be m minus, we put something in there, and then m minus, we put something in there. So these solutions go, this one in here, and this one in here, like that. So negative 5 there, and 3/2 there. And to make sure that we have the coefficient right, this 2 there. So that the factorization of q looks like this: 2 multiplied by m plus 5 multiplied by m minus 3/2. Okay, so that's the factorization. So now for the chart. The 2 points that we found were negative 5 and 3/2. So now we need some sample points in there. So how about negative 6, 1, and 2. So now the sign chart for this will be, so in the left region it will be 2, because that's a 2, and then when we plug in negative 6, this will be negative, and then that will be negative. In the middle region, 2, and then multiply by something positive, and then something negative, and then a 2, and then multiply by something positive, and something positive. And all that matters is the overall sign. So negative times negative is positive, times 2 is still positive. This will be negative. That's positive. So that's the answer to part A, the slope chart. So for part B, now all we have to do is just, we just have to read / interpret the slope chart from part A. So for part B, the intervals where the function is decreasing. Okay, so that would be -5 to 3/2. Well, so to be clear, since this is a slope chart, usually the way that you signify this is that the fact that this is positive here means that the slope is positive, so that you write this symbol, and then negative slope like that, and then positive slope like that. So that middle interval is where the function is decreasing. So for part C, again, we just need to read and interpret that chart. So then that would be -∞ to -5, union 3/2 to infinity. And part D, for the local mins, there is a local min at m equal 3/2, and you can see that from the chart. And for the local maxes, there's a local max at m equal -5.